What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. Today we are actually coming back to the Houston Texans franchise. I know that it's been a long while since I've done anything in this franchise, but I wanted to get to a point where we can at least give this franchise a bit of closure, because this is something that I think had a bit of potential, and Madden just kind of fell off at that point for me. So we didn't really come back to it. I wanted to give it a break, and we're going to come back to it now. So we simmed through this season that we left off on, and we finished 7-9. So the interesting thing about this season is when we went through the schedule, actually, we started off, and actually it's not going to show it to us because of the being advanced to the off season, but we started off 4-0, and so whenever I was simulating through this season and I saw we were 4-0, I was like, oh wow, well, this team might have a chance. Well, it developed pretty nicely from an overall perspective. Really, the only thing of note so far in this off season and so far overall is just to tell you guys that we were able to bring back Titus Howard on a 3-year deal. So he was the only re-signing that we had here, and I really don't feel like with everything that we have going on with the team that there were any free agent pickups that were necessary. You guys can see that the team is developing pretty nicely on an offensive and defensive perspective. We've got a lot of superstars on the defensive side of the ball. Our draft picks from last year turned out to be really good. Our rookie corner turned out to be an 83 overall superstar after everything was said and done. And then our outside linebacker actually must have gotten a couple of dev upgrade challenges because he's now a superstar 80 overall. So this defense is looking really good. We might need to add a few pieces here and there across both sides of the ball, especially maybe at wide receiver with Lee Arrington up to a 76, Jack Hayes at about a 75, and Barrios at a 75. We'll see what happens with those things, but I wanted to bring you guys in, let you guys know that there was a 7-9 record there, what happened with the re-signing with Titus Howard, and then I'm going to go ahead and show you guys our draft picks once we make them, and we'll go ahead and sim through, and basically I want to carry you guys through to a point where we become the Houston Oilers again, and then once we are on the Houston Oilers, then what I might do is do some highlights and stuff and try to make a playoff run with that team. So we actually have our draft timer paused here today because I did not do the scouting. Since I simmed, I had it scout for me. But I think that there are a couple of options here that I'm looking at in the first round. I really like James Goodrich here, a cornerback that should have good development that could pair on the outside with our cornerback last year. I was also looking at some of the linebackers. I like Adam Mobley here potentially, but he's a late first rounder, so he might go a little bit later. There was also Robert Cash that looks like he could be pretty solid. And then from the wide receiver perspective, I am not hesitant to add a wide receiver, and there are a couple of good prospects here, a couple of good early first rounders in Devon Triplett, and I love this guy's name, which is crazy. And then Channing Kemp, who is a 6'3" guy, really good speed with that 4.4 240 and an early first round talent. I think that we really couldn't go wrong with any of these players, but from a team need perspective, I really think that the way to go is going to be pick the corner, because that's going to be a tough player to find. Now, there is at least one other first round talent here in Jeffrey Williams, but he is a bit of a later pick. So I think that we're going to go ahead and go with James Goodrich, and let's see what he is whenever we actually select him. He's a 77 overall. He does not have a development grade, but that's fine. We might get breakouts or anything like that for him. And really good speed, really good acceleration, good coverage skills to start out, good jumping, very good athlete. This is a guy that I really like, and I hope that he will pair well on the outside, since we've been kind of cornerback needy for a while with this team. Now, we do still want to add a few different positions in this draft between wide receiver, maybe another halfback to add to the squad, and a defensive back. There are a few players to pick from here. There are quite a few receivers that will be good later on. I'm actually personally targeting Wendell Callahan here, who I think as a mid-first round talent would be a really good addition here later on, and I think he might be available. There are also various different second round talents here that I would be comfortable drafting even late into the draft. So I think I'd be okay with taking a receiver a bit later. This first round talent halfback is still on the board in Deshaun Rivers, so we might take him. But I think what we're going to do, surprisingly enough, is we're going to go cornerback again, because Jeffrey Williams is left on the board, and as a guy that is a mid-first round talent at defensive back, we might just have our 3 corners with the 2 rookies that we've gotten within the past 2 years, and then adding him in. So let's go ahead and see what he has to offer. He's a 74 overall out of LSU, another pretty athletic player, and a 74 overall, like I said, with hidden depth. So great player there. I think that that's a great pickup for us, and we'll see what happens the rest of the draft. I think we are going to go ahead now and take Wendell Callahan at wide receiver, this mid-first round player. He is 24 years old, which isn't the best in the world, but you guys can see there he is very athletic. So he will probably slot into our receiving core pretty quickly and pretty easily. So I think that that one's a pretty solid pick. We do have another 3rd round pick, so we'll go ahead and advance to that one. And I think what we're going to do here, instead of drafting wide receiver, we will still be looking at this position later on in the draft. I think what we're going to actually do is, if he's here, we're going to take Noah Weatherspoon, middle linebacker, 3rd round talent, just to add to our linebacking core, because we do have room there for some players, and he looks like a pretty well-rounded guy. I think that he might add to the team, so we'll go ahead and add him, and then see if we can't get anything done with these later picks where it'll be a little bit more hit and miss. Next up is going to be wide receiver Jermaine Medlock out of Pittsburgh, 23 years old, a mid-second rounder here, 70 overall, 23 years old, another athlete at wide receiver. So I think we're going to be pretty solid at wide receiver at this point, and it's just going to be a matter of just kind of, taking guys that might be decent from here on out. And with our next pick, we selected Keon Potts, another 2nd round talent here, wide receiver out of Cal, and he is a 70 overall with hidden dev, so that's something that we're looking for. Honestly, we might just pick wide receivers the rest of the way, because we don't have much else scouted, unfortunately. So we are really down to what is left scouted for us, and of that, the only thing here that's really worth anything is going to be wide receiver. Unfortunately, we do have a couple of late round cornerbacks that might not be bad, but I think really we're just going to pick the best value wide receiver. There are a couple of tall guys here, so that's good. We'll go with the 3rd round talent, and then if the 4th round talent is there come our pick in the 7th round, what we'll do is we'll just pick somebody that fits our player type. We like those tall wide receivers, so again, let's go by scouted. And it looks like not much there, so let's go ahead and take Mitch Oden, the 6'3" corner out of Notre Dame, to finish off this draft. 65 overall, probably not going to make the team, but I think a pretty solid draft all around for us. And this team is going to be looking to compete here within the very near future. I think that this roster is looking really good. So I'm really happy with where we are standing after that simulated season as an 83 overall team. We would like to get Nick Biggs a development upgrade. I think that'll come once we start playing games with him. But like I said, we're probably going to simulate to the point where we are the Houston Oilers. Next up in the order of importance here, we were able to re-sign Dalvin Turk, the superstar strong safety, to a 5-year deal. However, Laramie Tunsil is asking for nearly $20 million per year as a left tackle, so we'll have to see what happens with him. He might be trade bait for this team just to see what happens, but we also have a few other important negotiations coming up, and I think that of all players, Laramie Tunsil would be a good one to keep around, but he also wants like a 4 or 5 year deal, which could be problematic for us. We do finally have the option to relocate back to Houston, so we're going to go ahead and select that option. And as I mentioned, we will be selecting the Oilers, and we will become the Houston Oilers once again. We are able to bring back Netani Muti on a 5-year deal, as well as Albert O, who's coming back on a 4-year deal himself. Now, oddly enough, I wasn't expecting it to give us any option for jerseys for the Houston Oilers, but there are 3 options here, with option 1 and option 2 not really being all that similar to the original Houston Oilers jerseys. Option 3, however, I believe is as close as we're going to get to the actual traditional Houston Oilers jerseys. In fact, these might be the exact Houston Oilers jerseys. As you guys can see here, it says Classic Oilers Uniform. So we're going to go ahead with that option since that is the actual, legit option for the Houston Oilers. Houston does play in NRG Stadium, which is a closed-roof stadium, and, there's a couple of options here for that. I think I'm going to go with just the Deluxe Sphere Stadium. I know that none of these are going to 100% replicate Houston Stadium, but I like the Sphere one the best out of any of them. It's got the best lighting and things like that, so we'll go with the Deluxe Sphere Stadium and see if that doesn't help us out at all. I know that this doesn't really play too much into things, but from a financial perspective, getting that Deluxe Stadium should benefit the team. We had the money to do it, so I figured we might as well bring Tunsil back. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to trade him. We do still have the financial flexibility to also part ways with a guy like this, but at 29 years old and 90 overall, I think he'll stay as a very good player for a while, and we did have to pay him $20 million a year to actually get him to come back, which is crazy, but for a young, budding quarterback, it's necessary to have that lockdown left tackle to protect him. Moving right along here, we did actually have a very good season here with this team preparing to move back to Houston. They finished 10-6. I'm going to go ahead and just simulate through their playoff run here. If we do get to a point where we maybe are playing for a AFC championship or a Super Bowl or something like that, then I'll go in and actually play that game with this team, and I'll cut that video and have that be a separate video for you guys. But I am curious what this team will actually do here as we advance. It looks like we probably got the win. No, we got the loss. You guys can see all the practice squad players signed. I think we probably failed this breakout challenge. So we did not get the breakout challenge with Eppard, but what I do want to show you guys, and I'm going to auto upgrade what I have left here real quick. What I do want to show you guys is this team and the progression that they've made so far. You guys could see on the front screen that they are a really good overall. So this is where we're looking at in terms of player overalls here at the end of the season. So some players looking really, really good. No superstar devs on the offense just yet, maybe once awards hit, but we have a very good defense right now. Few superstars across the board, a very good defensive line, a very good linebacking core, all things considered, and very good defensive backs. I would say that our defense is looking mighty strong. Our offense is looking pretty good as well, and this offense will look better once a user is in control of it, but really appreciative of where this team has come from, and we are now up to an 85 overall, which is kind of crazy. I'll see you guys back for another off season here in a moment, and let you guys know what happens in terms of signings or anything of that nature. To start off with the offseason, we do have various different signings, Jack Hayes being the first, a 78 overall star at the end of the season. We extended him 4 more years to keep him around as a Houston Oiler for a long time. And after that Jack Hayes signing, we really did not have too much of note in terms of other re-signings or anything like that, so we are going to dive into free agency and see if we can't sign a couple of backups here and there to help out the team, but we really don't need to do a lot with this team to make anything crazy happen. One thing I will note is that we may decide to bring back J.J. Watt on a 1-year deal just to have him play as a Houston Oiler and see what that type of thing looks like. Especially with the organization kind of being revamped. He can come back home at the end of his career, being that he is still around, and we'll see what happens on that end of things. In fact, we are going to put a 1-year bid in on J.J. Watt just to try to bring him back and see what he looks like in an Oilers uniform. It just feels too good not to do it. There's really not going to be a whole lot else here for us in free agency that we need to do. I really like the team that we've put together so far, and I think really one more draft class here is just going to top it off, and this is going to end up being a really, really good team. So let's go ahead and just jump into that and see where we are start of the next season, where we want to be. And now that I see Isaiah Simmons out here, I'm thinking about maybe bringing him in. But yeah, lots of good stuff going on here with this team, and definitely looking forward to this season. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, our team did a pretty poor job of scouting this year. Unfortunately, it's focused more towards offensive line and stuff like that. But we are going to take best available in Luke Burr. Early first-round talent, good run block, good pass block. He's the youngest of the centers, and he is one of the only early first-round talent players that we have on our board. So we're going to go ahead with Luke Burr and see if that can't bolster our offensive line. He is a 76 overall with hidden development. Obviously, that is a huge pickup. Look at how good this guy is. That's going to be huge for this run game going into the Oilers. And man, can I just say how good these uniforms look? I am excited to actually play this season. I'm excited that I decided to come back to this franchise. I hope you guys are as well. But Luke Burr, our first round pick. With our next pick, we go with Carlos Steele, and again, like I said, scouts didn't do us any favors this year. Carlos Steele was completely unscouted, and the halfbacks were completely unscouted, but I actually kind of like what this guy has to offer. At 228, 22 years old, 90 speed, 89 acceleration, so not bad in that department, but he's a big guy, and he's got really good strength and really good trucking, so I honestly think this guy could be a very good 1-2 punch within our backfield. So I actually don't mind this pick, even though his overall is low. That kind of stinks, but I think that he could be a really good player. And I tell you what, he looks really good in that number 37 in that Oilers jersey, so definitely a fan of this guy, even though he's a bit of a low overall. Let's go ahead and do a draft recap and see what was picked for us. I don't have a lot of faith in them. So they picked a left tackle, 65 overall. Can't hurt to have a backup. Sergio Bird, the free safety here. We did need another free safety. Right end, Damon Phillips. Right guard, Dion Chesson. Halfback, Oscar Ray. And then defensive tackle, Brandon Sharpton. Now, the only one that I'm interested in seeing their ratings is the halfback because, like I said, we do need halfback on this team. He's probably not going to make the team, but I'm okay with these first couple of picks, and I think Luke Burr is going to be insane for this team. So I hope you guys are excited to see this season. I'm going to go ahead and advance to preseason. I'm going to get everything sorted out with this team, and then we'll be ready to actually start moving along with this Houston Oilers team and see if we can't win a Super Bowl here, in Houston as the Oilers, no longer the Texans. Hopefully you guys are excited. Hopefully you guys are interested in this as I am. Definitely wanted to jump back to this and include a little bit of Madden content. So make sure you guys leave a like on the video, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'll see you guys in the next one, and I hope you guys have a good one.